Hi guys, my name is Borrodante. Let's test Verve. So here it is. It's kind of a small program, relatively small, and someone recommended me to check it out under the video about the latest Verve Painter update with the thick paint, and I decided to have a look at what it is, and it turned out to be pretty interesting. So check this out. First of all, look the way the cursor is rendered. But that's not the best thing. Anyway, so let's just go ahead and paint. The main thing about this program is basically the way the whole paint is being simulated. So here we go, right? Really close to what Verve Painter has with their thick paint. Really close. I hold shift and I just push the paint around without adding anything new. Control will be erasing. So pretty basic stuff for ZBrush really. But yeah, this is the way things go. Everything works as an actual kind of a three-dimensional mass. It's not really three-dimensional as well as Verve Painter does it, but things go further if you're still not impressed. All these tiny little tweakers here are very interesting. So first of all, let's increase fluidity of the paint and try it now. You see this movement? By the way, you see the speed of the simulation. I don't know if it captures it well enough, but it's like 60 FPS. Everything is very nice. It doesn't work so well at my favorite resolutions when it's like 3,000–4,000 pixels, but it still can get pretty big. We'll get to it in a moment. So first of all, we get this kind of more of a wet paint right now that actually has certain fluid movement going on. And yeah, colors are generally blending too. So yeah, you see it gets kind of interesting when there's a lot of paint, and now I'm just pushing it around. So this is a program, as I understand, made by a one person. And it's like a little experiment that grew a bit bigger than that into an actual program for painting that uses graphics card to simulate fluids for actual painting. Meaning the whole canvas is a fluid simulation box. The kind of thing I saw years ago in JavaScript somewhere on the websites, but it was just nothing more than kind of like a pixel art thing. Just a toy. And if you think this is also not exactly usable, well, it's pretty much very usable if you tweak around dozens of these little values. So anyway, let's dive into the next level of fluidity. Let's go 70%, 69. Now we have this going on. Wow, I did not expect colors to go full rainbow on me, but yeah, this is what happened. That is because I remember I was poking it around for a few hours before I started recording. It's like super late, but I decided I really want to make a video. So there's smudge value, there we go, 52%. If I remove it, it will be just pushing around, but not blending all that much, although in such a high fluidity it still works. But this looks crazy, am I right? So yeah, it's easy to go very crazy with it and just have this going on. So let's go ahead and push it to the 100% fluidity and see this. So this is really close to a kind of art that I believe they call it irbu, something like that, where you paint with a tiny needle on the canvas that has a completely wet surface where paint is just like water or something. This is really close, but you paint with an actual brush instead. There's a bunch of different brushes right here, you can select them. It's not very comfy interface-wise, but still it's definitely usable and all that. So minimum size, now I can actually use it like a tiny needle, like this. But the values don't stop here, of course. There's also sharpness of the paint. If I move it to the lowest, you can see how paint is just dragged on as this thick thing. And sharpness 100 will kind of like make it more of a highly detailed. There's drying, and if we increase it a lot, like 96%, the whole fluidity kind of like dies really fast, like there's an insane fan blowing at the canvas, or something like that. Also, it drags the paint away from the canvas, and we can see actual canvas being revealed underneath the paint. So there's such a huge amount of different dimensions to change the nature of the paint you're working with. And what really impressed me is just the fact how it goes from completely actually dry to completely fluid, like just water wet. This is really impressive. I've never seen programs do it this way, like this far, to complete extremes. So build up. In the brush settings, there's build up. If we use it as 1%, let's actually clear the canvas. The button is right here. I'm actually mentioning it because you can try it, it's all free, and the interface is kind of hard to understand at first because nothing has actual words on the buttons, only when you hover sometimes you can figure it out. And in here, these buttons are actually about the layer. Clear, fill with the color. Mask, you can paint a mask of some sort and then just paint around it like this. So right now I'm kind of working, it's almost like watercolor really. You can see the texture of the canvas never even disappearing. That's because we have buildup of the paint in the brush 1%. We're just adding some color, but there's no thickness to the paint. Really looks like watercolor, I believe. Never actually painted it with it myself. I mean, I did when I was at school, but that's different. So let's do the smudge at 100%. Oh, now it's a lot more. The paint gets stopped by whatever is on the canvas already a lot harder. And if we remove the smudge, it just flows all over the place like everything is very wet. And when there's a lot of thickness to the paint, smudge adds another value to it. So here we have this thick layer, and then say I paint on top of it with smudge at 100%, it will leave the main mass underneath the stroke, like it doesn't push around all that much, all the mass. Even though everything is 100% wet, let's actually lower that down a bit. So yeah, I love the fact that in this program you can really go from completely crazily expressive with all the fluid effects and at the same time go back at any time, at any moment, to an actual decent painting able kind of brush and just work with it and actually create a painting with just these effects wherever you need them to have your expressive part going on. So yeah, this is the main thing about the program. You just paint with an actual paint that is as close to being real oil or even watercolor in a way as I've ever seen possible before. So really cool. Not sure about the navigation in this program. Space actually changes the size of the brush, and the only navigation I've seen is with a mouse when you use the middle button, the scroll button. So you scroll the zoom and click and drag as actual panning. Now, for the scale, I'm not sure if the performance will stay the same while I'm recording two videos from the screen and the webcam at the same time, but about this size, let's say 2K by 1.5K, like this. It actually shows the pixels right away. This is the way you resize the canvas, just using the crop tool. There's not a lot of other interface elements in the program. So then I click with the left mouse button again to apply, and it seems to be fine. If I will do it bigger, I don't want to do it right now, but it gets really nasty lags after a certain threshold or something. It gets really super laggy. It's not just about the performance, but really there's a certain step after which you get really laggy everything. So, and right now it's still the same. This is wow, it's so cool how the canvas is actually getting wet like this. This is cool. I never seen this effect before. Oh, the size of the brush is screen spaced. I love how the canvas actually gets wet underneath itself. This is awesome. I've never seen this before. I don't know, it's so cool to me. Oh, I can use the numbers on the keyboard to change the brushes. That's awesome. Ew. Wow, the colors really went crazy here, I don't know why. By the way, about that, there's a change in the bump, right in the layer settings. Glossiness, diffusion is how blurry the highlights are. And then we can make everything metallic and really actually push it to the way where we paint with gold or something. Like this. So it's always applied to the whole layer. So you have a layer with the metal, and on top of it you can paint with all settings changed to somewhat of a normal. What's also curious is that this program doesn't seem to have the limit to the size of the brush. Only the limit to the size of the canvas. And I mean, it all really works. Kinda weirdly though. I actually never seen such heavy effects with the colors before. Maybe I tweaked something too much. Oh yeah, there we go, now it makes sense. 100 fluidity and 100 smudge makes it look a bit weird. But yeah, this is a huge size right now for such a simulation. So I think this program is really interesting. It has some glitches with the strokes when you make a fast stroke. Like you can see, steps show up pretty badly. But it may get better if there's more development planned to this program in the future. Oh yeah, one more tweak, a very interesting one. So we have huge fluidity, and there's curls to the fluid. This is a very typical kind of value for these fluid simulation boxes. So it makes the water curl a lot more than normal, and it looks like a lot of fun. Works very nicely in a bit of a smaller size, where the brush steps are not failing. So yeah, I guess I mentioned most of the awesome features in this program. There are some settings for the canvas, some more settings for the brush. These are the same modes for the brush as Control and Shift do. Control erases, Shift smears around, and this one I don't remember. Oh, this one smears around differently. Yeah, this is actual pure blending. Cool. This is actually very useful. And Shift still does this kind of stuff. So yeah, this is it for the Verve. A really awesome little program. It really reminds me of that other little program, not as little and more finalized than this. It was called Rebelly, or Rebel But Rebel had a bit of a more of an artificially added features of the paint, where in here we have one natural common simulation with all the settings being very non-discretely adjusted, which is really cool. The whole paint in all the circumstances has one nature, just different values. This is really awesome. And that's why it looks so amazing, and the whole process is very dynamic and expressive, so I really like it. So yeah guys, go ahead and check it out. It's actually very usable without any tablet or anything, so you can just play with it in the office or whatever. And maybe support the developer if they're asking for that, I'm not even sure. They probably do, why not? But yeah, this is a very interesting, fresh program that may take, like, imagine this kind of program being a full thing. I don't know if that would be a Paintstorm studio that has this kind of engine. That would be awesome. Maybe one day. But for now, I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Adjust the fluidity. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. I have had so many things to do today. So many things.